We had a client that we worked with, and she was really struggling with profitability. She kept raising tuition. She actually did 3 tuition increases within a 15-month cycle, and she still could not catch up. So I helped her work with our 6 money leaks in schools, and she only used 3 of the 6 money leaks and cut her expenses by 50%. 50. She did not fire anyone. She did not slash any of her programs, and she did not work more hours. Again, the 6 money leaks are not hacks or spreadsheets. These are patterns. They are small decisions that feel so normal that your school does, but they quietly drain your school's profit. So if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard, but still not seeing the return, this is your first step to clarity. Click the link in the show notes and find out what it's actually costing you.
Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, where we have conversations about education, leadership, and building a school of excellence. The goal on this show is to bring you clarity, up-level your mindset, and give you practical strategies and inspiration so you can show up with confidence and trust your decision-making. I'm Chani Wilshansky. I'm a mom of 4 under 10, a former New Yorker, and been in the early childhood field my entire life. And I'm so grateful that you've joined me for this conversation. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Schools of Excellence podcast. Today is an incredibly exciting day for me and for all of the listeners on this podcast, because today is episode 50 of the Schools of Excellence podcast. It is our 50th episode. And I want to kick off this episode with really thanking you for being an active listener on our show, for taking the time every single week to listen, to tune in, whether you've had the time to share the podcast, to rate, to leave us a review. I'm so grateful for this time that I get to spend with you every single week in your ear, and really appreciate the commitment that you've made to be part of this amazing show. So thank you for that. Now, this episode I've been thinking a lot around, what do I want the 50th episode to be about? What do I want the topic to be about? What I want you to take away? What I want you to learn? And I thought that the most powerful gift to give you in this 50th episode is to talk about the pause. And so today it's about, do you know how to stop and pause? Many times as leaders, we misinterpret pause or stopping as this kind of like, well, I stopped for a few minutes. I wasn't going the whole time. Like I went to the bathroom or I ate lunch or whatever it is. That's not really pausing. And the flip side of that is many people are afraid to create schedules or calendars because they misinterpret as, well, if I have a, calendar and I plan and I do all this stuff, and there isn't space for spontaneous fun and play, which is, actually quite the opposite. So we actually have multiple episodes on time abundance, on time budgets, on understanding how to create a calendar that serves the profit and legacy of the center that you're building and creating. And so definitely go check out those episodes after this one. But similar to a financial budget, when you have a financial budget, it doesn't mean that you can't spend money on entertainment or dining out or other things, right? You just make it part of your budget. The same way as with your calendar, right? Your calendar is your time budget. It's your guide to how do you intentionally make time for productive work and rest and creativity. It's very, very interesting because many of you know I moved to Florida last year from New York, and I lived in New York for 19 years. I grew up in New Jersey, and then I moved to New York, and I lived there for 19 years before I moved here to Florida with our family. And there's a lot of difference between New Yorkers and Floridians. But one of the things that I recognize in some of my visits to Florida is that Florida felt a little slower paced, right? And for those of you that are from the South or know people in the South, like there is a little bit of that slower kind of pace. But I mistakenly thought that if there's slower pace, then it's like, great, they have this like beautiful work-life balance of, work hard, play hard, and rest, and pausing and creativity. Whereas in New York, it's like you just work till you die. But it's not true. While down south, people definitely move a little bit slower and things are a little bit slower, the person needs to be intentional about creating intentional pausing and rest and play. It doesn't just happen, contrary to what I wanted to believe that, when I moved down here, it would just happen that there would be time for rest and play. And obviously that's, a fool's narrative. Like you need to create that. So one of the things that were interesting for me that I noticed kind of in the effect of a slower pace is when I started driving here in Florida. So we brought down our car, and then we got another car as well to move around and do carpools and stuff. I noticed that during traffic, there's a very different vibe on the highways, or even during the city streets. And there isn't this like instant gratification thing. When the light changes, eventually people start moving. It doesn't happen instantly. And definitely nobody beeps if you don't move right away. And after a few months in Florida, we moved in August, and I think my first trip back to New York was in October. So just a couple months later. And I was driving in Manhattan on Canal Street. I came out of the Holland Tunnel to get to Brooklyn. And the light changes, and there's this car in front of me, and he's not moving. And I made this promise to myself that I was going to be a Florida driver in New York, that I wasn't going to beep anyone. And I waited, and I did this little test with myself, and I counted how many seconds I needed to wait before the person moved. It was actually only 10 seconds. And then, he realized and he started driving. And the rest of the drive from Canal Street until I got to Brooklyn, which was, another 35 minutes or more due to city traffic, I couldn't stop thinking about the 10 seconds, like the pause of the 10 seconds, how just a few months earlier, I would have beeped the bejesus out of that guy, if he didn't move instantly. And here I have the patience to sit for 10 full seconds before he starts moving. And it's really this shift, of course, in environment, but also in this slower pace around, it doesn't have to happen this second, right? It's okay if it happens in a few seconds. So I share all these stories. One, it's just giving you a little insight into what's going through my mind and things that I'm working through at the same time that I'm talking with you guys. But just really this invitation to the pause, right? Because when you think about rest, sometimes when I take a nap, or I take a pause, or whatever it is, I wake up and I come out of the pause and I feel rejuvenated. I feel like, yeah, I really rested my mind and my body. And sometimes I'll do something where I think I'm resting, but it's actually an escape of responsibilities. And when I finish doing whatever it was I was doing to try to rest, I actually feel icky. And some of you are listening to this and you're like, what? Connie does avoidance? Yes, I am human. And I sometimes like to avoid things that I need to do because I'm human. And when you recognize your humanity, it's a lot easier to work through the challenges, because you don't think that you're above human behavior, So sometimes when we're looking for a rest, some of you might go binge or, mindlessly scroll, and you think that you're resting, right? Because your body's not moving and your mind isn't thinking or making decisions, right? It's very mindless. But as soon as the show is over, all of the feelings that you were trying to quote unquote rest from come back again. So you watch another episode, right? There was a person that was interviewing Reed Hastings, who's the CEO of Netflix. And he asked him, who is your biggest competitor? Who is Netflix's biggest competitor? And he stopped for a moment and then he said, sleep. Sleep is my biggest competitor. We won't get into all of the feelings that I have around that, but his biggest competition is people sleep, right? People stay up to binge because you haven't solved the problem, right? You're not resting, you're avoiding, you're escaping. There's also a need for avoidance and escaping, but don't interpret that as rest. Intentional rest is tuning into your body and mind and what you need, right? Whether that's 5 minutes of silence, of doing nothing, right? Or doing a giant brain dump and getting everything out of your head. You're a school leader who wants tools, resources, and just plain strategies of how to really lead your school and build a school of excellence. Well, I created something called the School Leadership Toolkit, which has over 10 resources covering topics like parent-teacher relationships, difficult conversation, teacher appreciation ideas, and time management, along with to-do list management. Some of the things that you get in this School Leadership Toolkit is how to lead parent-teacher conferences. This is a masterclass training and to show your staff so that they can lead conferences with ease. We have a parent partnership blueprint, which is the step-by-step formula for authentic parent relationships. I have a training on how to get your to-do list done and how to create your calendar for one-on-one meetings with staff. I have tools on how to filter distractions so that you can make the best decisions, and reflective questions to ask teachers for goal setting and performance reviews, along with so much more. This mini toolkit is actually just the thing that you need to kick off this amazing school year and give you the confidence and the ability to trust your decision making as you head into another amazing year. Go check it out, the link in the show notes, or go to hani.me/toolkit. I think about the pause, and when I invite the leaders in our programs and clients that I work with to stop, to pause, they say, I don't have time for that. Here's what I think that really is more than anything. As I've, studied this again and again and again, is it's not that we don't have time to pause or stop. It's that you don't know how to. You don't know how to pause or sit still or not do anything because your body and mind is so used to consistently moving and going and delivering and being productive and being efficient. And when I say this out loud, I hear, I see a lot of nodding heads, and I hear a lot of like, like these big exasperated breaths of like, yeah, that's me. And you might be listening to this now in your car, on your run, and doing the exact same thing, nodding your head, breathing out this very cathartic kind of long breath. Because pausing and stopping is a skill just like anything else, just like leadership, enrollment, marketing, any of the skills that you need to learn to be a great leader. Pausing is a skill. And knowing how to pause intentionally to tune into your mind and body is hard, because we really need to create this definition of rest. You see, I think about, there's so many people in my life that I want to be there for and that need me to be there for them, right? If in any given moment, if I step into any given moment, there's someone who needs something from me. My husband has a question, my kids need something, my mom needs something, my siblings need something, I have clients that have needs. At any given moment that I step into, there is someone or something that needs my attention. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that I am so blessed to be surrounded by so many humans whom I love and absolutely get so much joy from giving and nurturing and taking care of them. The flip side of that is to be lonely and have nobody. And so it's this paradox of like, yes, I love all the people in my life, right? Yes, you love your staff and the children and the families and your own personal family and your partner and your kids. And some of you have grandkids and your puppies or any other animals that you have. And we need to pause and ask ourselves in those fleeting moments, okay, here's a moment. What do I need right now? Instead of grabbing the phone and checking for the latest ping or ding, what do I need? Tune in. What do I need right now? Right? You could do that right now as we're listening. Just pause. What do you need? We need to remember to pause our minds from the productive work mode and get into play mode. Play with the kids, not while your mind is racing and distracted. Really be with your kids. Or do something that you love. Paint, do a puzzle with a glass of wine, tennis, yoga, pickleball, whatever you love to do. Go for a swim. Remembering to play and then rest. Sitting quietly for 5 minutes and doing nothing, or a meditation. And over time, you learn what are the things that rest your body and that bring you joy in playing. And you start to integrate more of this into your day-to-day life. And so what I want to leave you with is this. I started the podcast with the question, do you know how to stop and pause? And while I think intellectually we understand what stop means, we know what pause means, but have we practiced the skill of the pause? Because it's a skill. And what I'd love to invite you into today is to start to develop that practice, to start to develop the practice of pausing, of reminding yourself that you're a person, you're not a machine, and you need to pause, and you need to nurture your spirit, your mind, your body, and your soul. And hopefully this episode is a little gift to remember how hard you work, how far you've come, and learn to fall back in love with the journey. That you don't only celebrate when you reach, the finish line, because the finish line keeps getting pushed off. You learn how to celebrate in the moments right now. I'm celebrating episode 50. It's an incredible milestone, and I'm so grateful to be, crossing this milestone. But I'm also celebrating cheers to another 50 and many more episodes that we can continue to spend together and learn together and grow together. And I have one request for you. If you have been part of the podcast since its launch, or if you just recently heard about us and just started listening, if you're listening to today's episode, I would love if you took a few moments to leave us a review on the podcast on iTunes and just share maybe something that you learned, an insight, a specific message that resonated with you. And I'm going to take the time to really read those. And for me, it's a gift to know that even though the podcast is this one-sided kind of conversation where I speak into the microphone and you listen to me in your ears, I think there's real connection of the thousands of people that are listening. And it is an honor to hear from you of what's resonating and what's connecting and what's really creating impact in your life and your mind, so I can continue to create incredible content moving forward. So thank you so much again for listening to today's episode, for all the episodes, and cheers to the next 50 and many, many more. Thanks for joining me. If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school, I would love if you can do two things for me. One, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And two, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the place to learn how to build a school of excellence. And I would be so grateful if you can do that for us. Your help and support makes this show to be able to be listened by the thousands of other school leaders all around the world. Thanks so much for listening, for giving us your time and attention each and every week, and I appreciate that you have joined us.
If your accountant has ever told you to cut back on professional development or slash your teacher appreciation budget or your staff development budget just so you could stay afloat, or has told you, hey, you probably can't go invest in that program, please listen. The problem is not that you're spending too much money on your people or yourself or your investment or your support system. It's that your school has invisible money leaks that are draining your profit, leaks that no spreadsheet will ever catch or accountant. So I created the 6 money leaks of schools that show you the 6 core areas that schools lose money every single month without realizing it. If you close even one of them, your profits will start to soar without sacrificing your team. Go get it now and stop blaming the things that are actually building your school.